In the midst of so much going on, like violence in Chicago, many have described it as the killing fields of America, particularly among young African-American and Latino males. Some even argue there is no upward mobility for the youth growing up in the tough, low-income minority communities. But in today's Beyond the Dream, we see a different picture, a real story of real triumph in the middle of crime and tragedy. While deadly violence in Chicago gets all of the focus on the news, 700 students at the Gary Comer College Prep are boldly defying the odds against them. They're excelling in education in the middle of Southside's killing fields.
It really is a great thing, especially, if you just watch the news any night, any given night on the violence in Chicago, to walk into this building every day and work with the kids that we work with. Our kids really are defying the stereotypes. 100% of our seniors every year have been accepted into college, and it's going to continue happening.
My father was a treasurer of the gangs, and he basically told me that I wasn't going to do what he did, that I was going to go to school. So I used school as a vehicle, education as a vehicle, to keep myself out the streets.
Assistant Principal Vondale Singleton graduated high school, attended Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, where he earned his master's degree in education. Armed with faith and hope, he returned to the city that he loves to help kids in Chicago achieve their dreams. He launched Champs, a mentoring program to help teenage boys withstand the pressures of joining gangs.
I used to be at risk, then I switched it up. Started hitting them books, kept my grades up.
The boys recorded a song and video that urges people to focus on education and jobs and urges gangs to stop the violence. The video earned recognition from the White House Film Festival, which paved the way for the kids to visit the president. Singleton and the young men tell me they are on a mission to develop the kind of character that leads to a legacy of greatness. What is the impact that you want the world to know that you're making on the good young men and women in Chicago?
I would say, for me personally, I'm letting the young man know that I'm not giving up on him.
How long have you been a student here?
Since 2012.
And what's involved in your future?
Right now, I'm like transitioning into like this solo artist, and I'm also going into forensic psychology. So it's like growing up, basically, going from that baby into that adult.
Could you have done that without coming here?
No.
Going to like a regular school, I wouldn't have been challenged.
We hear all these bad things about Chicago and the unfortunate circumstances where young kids are dying, yet you're the lions who are out there making a roar for change.
One of the things we really try to push is a life without excuse. So it doesn't matter, two-parent home, one-parent home, foster care, living in a homeless shelter, dads at home, dads in jail. We don't care about what the background is when you come. We try to foster that life without excuse, because there's always going to be a reason to fail. We're going to give you every reason to succeed, be positive, and not be negative, and that's what we drive for every day.
An incredible program. The Gary Comer College Prep and Champs insist on setting audaciously high goals for the students. It challenged them to believe that with grit, zest, optimism, and gratitude, anything is possible. Well, for nearly 100 years, the Urban League of St. Louis has been involved in helping the minority community overcome impediments and obstacles that have stood in the way of achieving things that matter, like a good education, a good job, and a better representation in government and civic organizations. Well, today we take a look at how the League is helping to bring reconciliation and development to the community of Ferguson. That's today's Beyond the Dream. A statement scrawled in sand on an abandoned property in Ferguson reads, "Racism lives here." It's a disturbing reminder that Ferguson is still healing from the deep wounds of the past. The pain began on August 9th, 2014, with the fatal police shooting of Michael Brown. It caused racial tensions to erupt, spilling into the streets, igniting riots, looting, and fires that put some small business owners out of business. Outside protesters came in, doing little to help the city heal. Throughout the unpredictable days of unrest, the Urban League of St. Louis focused on how to bring healing. CEO and President Michael McMillan says the entire staff worked around the clock, talking to people about their anger, fear, confusion, and hope.
It's our role to try to make sure that we provide resources to the community, try to look for ways to bring people together and try to find a common ground for the solutions, not only in Ferguson, but throughout this region.
The Urban League staff discovered that young people in Ferguson, particularly African-American boys, were frustrated. They wanted something better than being labeled as thugs.
And all of them said jobs, that they needed ways to take care of themselves and employment, which was their #1 priority. We found that young African-American men had 3 times the average rate of unemployment in this region. So we created a program specifically to address that called Save Our Sons, so that we would get those young men, bring them in our doors, give them a month's worth of training, place them in a job, and then work with them for an entire year after that so that we can make sure that they're able to take care of themselves and their families. We're working with over 100 different companies that have taken people and allowed them to come work, and we have many success stories.
They taught me everything, how to get a job, how to keep a job, how to get promoted, just gave me all the great credentials. You guys changed my life. I love you guys. Thank you. Now my wife looks at me different. You know, my kids look at me different. My mother's proud of me. But more importantly, you know, I feel different about myself. And so I can go out into the world and I can hold my head up high again because I now am what I consider a man because I'm providing for my family.
The Urban League is also building a community empowerment center at the site of the first burned out store, Quick Trip, which invested $1 million of its own money into the project to help turn its vacant lot into a place of hope.
We wanted to do something to create a phoenix rising out of the ashes and turn a tragedy into a triumph. We will focus on how do we take a person and make them completely independent. So if you're renting a home, how do we train you and teach you how to buy a home? If you have no financial assets, how do we teach you how to become someone who is accumulating and building wealth? If you have a GED, how do we take you and train you and get you the information and the resources to then get a college degree?
Quite a lot of work being done there and more to come. Some skeptics and even critics of young African-American males had asked Michael McMillan critically, why would any corporation get involved in providing jobs and money to rebuild Ferguson? Well, his response was, quote, the corporate setting, the corporate community in St. Louis is one of the most generous in the country, and they saw the fact that St. Louis had gone through a lot of pain and negative publicity. They wanted to find ways to step in and help make a difference. And Julio Suarez, Senior Director of Community Affairs at Anheuser-Busch, says as an active member of the St. Louis community, the company itself wanted to support programs that help to deliver solutions to important needs, adding this quote, we were drawn to the Save Our Sons program because it offers immediate tools and resources to individuals in need and ready to invest in their future. We applaud the Urban League for developing this program and value our long-standing history of working in partnership with the organization. Julie, they're going to add about 500 jobs for young men over the next 2 years, and those young men will be, I predict, phenomenal citizens.
That's excellent, and what an inspiration to give them to pass along.
In today's installment of Beyond the Dream, we focus on General Motors. The auto giant is investing heavily in America's future. Here's an example by helping the youth, one student at a time, through the GM Student Corps, empowering these students and making a powerful, positive change. Every summer in Detroit, some students are hard at work beautifying rundown neighborhoods, rebuilding playgrounds, or any other community service project they plan to do. And they're getting paid for their efforts. These are the members of the GM Student Corps. The program started 4 years ago after General Motors invested $27 million into the Detroit Public Schools. But the company wanted to do more than just give money. So it created the Student Corps, putting GM retirees back in service to not build cars, but to build lives.
What if we could give students jobs in the summer? What if we could pay them to do service work? What if we could engage our retirees to be a partner in that program? A lot of what ifs there that we kind of took and we explored and we pushed, and we came up with a great idea that kind of blends students, retirees, active employees all together, and the students get to pick what projects they want to work on.
We teach them not just the hard work of community service, but more importantly, we teach them about life. We teach them about the obstacles they're going to face in life and that they have to overcome those. We teach them about never giving up on their dreams. We teach them what they need to do to succeed in whatever profession, they choose to pursue.
130 students from 13 high schools in Detroit are paid during their summer internship. Through their mentors, they learn the value of developing good character.
Character is valuable. Without character, you won't be nothing in life. You can go far with character, but you won't go nowhere with it without it.
At Central High School, I sat down to talk with the students about their dreams and goals. All of them love calling Detroit home. As hard as that may sound to people who are familiar with Detroit's financial woes, its poor and blighted areas filled with abandoned buildings and rampant crime, these students believe they can fulfill their dreams of becoming productive citizens who can rebuild the Motor City. They see themselves as being the hope of Detroit.
Detroit is coming back. My perception that I want other people to know about Detroit, other than just the gang violence, is that we're growing tremendously. We're a good community still. If we weren't, then how are, we still graduate and still making something out of our lives.
People can motivate other people to do the right thing.
How many of you are going to college? Show of hands. Wow. Armed forces?
They see more potential in us and what we can do, and they see that we out trying to prove everybody else wrong, that we can graduate and we can make something of ourselves instead of being just a statistic.
And we will be following them very closely, and we'll have more stories coming up on the GM's Student Corps program. It is an incredible program. Kudos.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we showed you Claudette Robinson's contribution to building the legacy of Motown Records, the sound of America. She was there in the beginning as the only female member of Motown's first signed group, The Miracles. In today's Beyond the Dream, we continue our focus on the First Lady of Motown. The Miracles became a musical giant for Motown. Hit after hit made them a household name. Behind the scenes, Claudette Robinson and her former husband, Smokey, struggled in building a family. Claudette endured the trauma of experiencing multiple miscarriages.
I had a total of 8 miscarriages.
Claudette recalls how Smokey, who by then had become one of the top songwriters in the world, wrote a song for her that offered her comfort and hope.
He was just trying to show that irregardless to whatever happened, that the children didn't make it or whatever, that we had each other, and he was giving his more love.
That song, More Love, became another major hit for the Miracles. More importantly, Claudette's hope prevailed. She eventually gave birth to 2 children, a boy and a girl, Barry and Tamla. Today, Claudette has a nonprofit foundation called Miracle Babies that helps women deal with the emotional scars of miscarriages. She also speaks at seminars to promote good character, education, and, of course, Motown. Her marriage to her childhood friend did not last. Claudette and Smokey came to a fork in the road and ended their 27-year marriage, yet they maintain a respectful friendship that began during their childhood. Looking at pictures of her past is like looking at history of Motown's rise to success. She was there to witness the beginning stages of others who emerged as stars.
There are a lot of talented people, but then there are people that I call superstars. So I would have to say Smokey is one of those.
Stevie Wonder.
Oh my goodness. Stevie, from a very little boy, played many instruments, sing. There were times that you'd think, is Stevie really blind? I have a picture of Stevie and Bobby and I. Bobby is my cousin that was in the Miracles. We're helping him ride a bicycle.
The Temptations.
The Dancers of Life. They were #1 as far as routines and the choreography that they had.
Marvin Gaye.
Genius talent, handsome, loved by all the women. Very much a gentleman.
the impact of his song, What's Going On?
I think that will live forever, way ahead of its time, because even today it means a lot.
Diana Ross.
Diane had something from the very beginning. She was born to be a star.
Berry Gordy.
He had a dream and a vision that had to be from a genius point of view to really think that he could put this all together.
The Jackson 5.
The Jackson 5. When I first saw those little guys come to Motown, you know, when they did that first audition, I was there just wondering how in the world could this little guy have that much talent.
Claudette Robinson, a pioneer and trailblazer, a woman who believes in miracles, and she prays for all people to be blessed with miracles that will help them live beyond the dream. You know what I really love about that? What I really love about Claudette Robinson and all of the people in Motown is that they were just kids growing up in the hood or the inner city of Detroit, and they had a dream. And they went out and lived it and fulfilled it and changed American music, changed music around the world.
Yeah, certainly didn't let their environment keep them down.
No,
in fact, it inspired them to want to get out of that life and do better for themselves.
And there was no quit in their spirit.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, cool
Very
stuff.
inspirational.